with me, we have another great SnapLogic product marketer with us, David Wilmer, who's the principal product marketing manager. And he will be presenting along with Komodo Holdings with Corey and Wynn. All right, Dave, over to you.
All right, thank you, Karen. Hello and welcome, everyone. As Karen mentioned, my name is David Wilmer. I'm a principal product marketing manager here at SnapLogic. I'm really excited to be part of this second annual Enterprise Automation Summit. Something really exciting for me. Before we get started, real quick, I just wanted to go over a couple of quick reminders. All of our sessions today are being recorded. They'll be available for on-demand viewing shortly after the conference, and also, as time permits, at the end of this presentation, we should have time to take some live questions, so please enter some questions into the comments in the chat window. We'll take those at the end of the session. Now, I've only been at SnapLogic for a short period of time, but I do have over 20 years experience in the IT industry. So you'll believe me when I tell you that our next speakers have a really great story to tell about the value of capturing data insights and how intelligent data delivery can turn a small online retailer into America's largest aftermarket power sports equipment provider for motorcycle enthusiasts everywhere. So with that, let me introduce to you Corey Hulse, Director of Data Engineering at Komodo.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here.
And Winowski Gene, also a data engineer at Komodo.
Hi, guys.
So Corey and Wynn are going to take you through their journey at Komodo and how SnapLogic's intelligent integration platform delivered unprecedented value through automating data delivery from a complex assortment of systems and applications, something I'm sure many of us can all relate to. Corey and Wynn, the stage is all yours.
All right, thank you, David. Really appreciate that introduction. So hello, welcome everyone. We've got a presentation today on Komodo's data adventure with SnapLogic. And today we're going to cover some introductions at first, talk a bit about Komodo, but really focus on our data journey and our switch over to SnapLogic. Most importantly, though, we're going to see some demonstrations. Wynn is going to show us some of the meat behind the tool a bit later today, and talk about how it really helped Komodo deliver data and insights over to our stakeholders. We've had some introductions already. My name is Corey Hulse. I'm the Director of Data Engineering here for Komodo and based out of Philadelphia. I've worked for about 15 years in the business intelligence and analytics space for clients and companies in the areas of retail, consumer goods, and the insurance industries. I joined Komodo about 4 years ago, and pandemic is about 2 years ago now. Pandemic's allowed me to grow my hair out to be a little bit longer than the professional headshot that you might see there. But with me today, Winowski Gene. He's a data engineer for Komodo as well and based out of sunny Florida. Better weather than we're having now in the Philadelphia area. Wynn has about 10 years of experience working in the retail and legal sectors in the areas of data analytics and business intelligence. And Wynn has been working for Komodo for about 3 years now. Wynn's favorite food is baklava. So if anyone wants any gifts, baklava high on the list. But really, it's about Komodo's data and analytics journey. So Komodo, what is Komodo? I've never heard of it. What Komodo is, it's a portfolio of customer-facing brands all centered around the motorcycling industry. So each brand has a rich history of go-getters taking a look at the marketplace and saying, we could do better. We could serve riders better. We can be an industry leader. So Revzilla, Cycle Gear, Rever, J&P Cycles are now part of the Komodo family of brands. 4 brands, 1 culture. Our company is all about serving the rider and fueling the industry. And our retail brands deliver motorcycling goods and services to riders all across North America and all across the world. So part of that outreach, part of the marketing that we do, and getting to the data side of things, is delivering content and entertainment. We produce hundreds of videos a year and have the top motorcycling podcast right now on Apple Podcasts. Some of the things that we do are informational about products and reviews. Some are purely for entertainment. A recent video that our team did was recreating the couple 100-mile bike ride from Dumb and Dumber on a street legal mini bike. We took them from the plains of Nebraska all the way to Aspen, Colorado. It's gotten about 2 million views and resulted in the team getting a call from the director of the movie, Peter Farrelly. Underneath it all, though, hits on videos, product, informational, data and analytics, connected up to marketing efforts, connected up to ultimately sales. We also have a philanthropic arm called Komodo Cares, which allows us to support various charities that are connected in with the world of motorcycling and supporting the community of riders. And that's where data comes into play too. Who are the philanthropic efforts that we're choosing to support, how do we know that our dollar is going to go the furthest in terms of supporting these efforts that we know are supporting the motorcycling community? But data, let's talk about data. Let's take you on a brief journey of one of our retail brands, Revzilla. So here's where it all started for Revzilla, in a corner shop in South Philadelphia in the mid 2000s. And here's the three founders in their prime, Anthony, Matt, and Nick. Three guys in a garage, disliking their finance jobs, thinking, you know, they can do a better way to connect motorcyclists with moto products. So November 2007, all systems go. The site launched, but more importantly, at least from my point of view and Wynn's point of view, is the integration of data everywhere, capturing lots of key information on the transactional system, integration of Google Analytics, which will be an important call out later, third-party data, data, all very important, all being captured from the very beginning in various different sources. So does anyone want to guess what the first thing we sold on this website was? That you didn't think it was a can of Kawasaki Glow Green spray paint. That's a data point. That's fun. Oh, by the way, that can was refunded. Another data point, I guess, for our system. And here's an action shot of one of the first fulfillment centers Revzilla had, again, capturing data at all points of the transaction, from the order to fulfillment, ultimately to the receipt by the customer. But now here are some screenshots. The company's grown, the brands have grown, our current company headquarters down in South Philadelphia, and that rinky-dink fulfillment center has ballooned into 3 giant facilities in Philadelphia, Louisville, and Las Vegas. Data everywhere. And we've got brick and mortar coverage now across the US, serving moto riders and building community with riding hubs all up and down the US. So every one of those stores, every one of those transactions represents a data point, another way to connect with our customers. So data, we're talking about data. What about the stack? How are we actually getting insights to our users? The problem is data everywhere. So what is our solution? We've got to serve these customers. The solution has to be getting data everywhere to serve the stakeholders and make sure that they have the insights that they need. So let's talk about the Komodo data landscape. We've been talking all about the data being generated, lives in many places, speaks many languages. How the heck do you get to a single source of truth when there are 300 plus data sources that ultimately influence the organization? Well, let's simplify that data landscape a bit here. On the left, you have those various different resources, brands, transactional systems, Google Analytics, everything else that we need to connect to. All the way over on the right, you have the end user business intelligence applications. But data applications don't just happen, or they could happen with a lot of band-aids underneath. But if you want to have a true enterprise-focused system, you need to make sure that the data lands in the right place for the right people, for data processing and for insights. And for Komodo, that journey starts with SnapLogic. Now, SnapLogic is a tool that we use to get data out of those various sources that you see on the left there, to clone it and get a copy into our Snowflake data lake. From there, we use dbt, a tool called dbt, also known as data build tool, for that transformation layer and processing into a Kimball-esque data warehouse. Now, data moves on to business intelligence apps and ultimately onto our users. Now, Donna J was mentioning earlier about the democratization of data. And I think that's a very cool concept, and ultimately what we've tried to embrace here at Komodo as well, that we've got data points that come in, but it's really about serving those individual business communities. You see some of the things over there on the left: merchandise, purchasing, catalog, logistics. We're listing out things that certainly apply to a retail brand, but it's all about making sure that you have the right insights about your customers, about your products, and that people are enabled to be able to make good, smart decisions. So it all sounds nice, but what's the situation? What's the problem? The company's growing. We've merged some independent brands together into a single company, but guess what? Not surprisingly, they're on different systems. We've got databases and data files that live all across the landscape. Oh, and to top it off, we had an existing provider that was loading things into Snowflake, but they've decided that they're going to depreciate their data transfer product and they're not going to support Snowflake anymore. Well, that's a conundrum. What are we going to do about it? So it gave us an opportunity to evaluate the market and to look at what do we need to look at in terms of data integration platforms. We need to replicate source data, all sorts of source data, into Snowflake. But from a technical perspective, we need to deal with both a full refresh, that here's a simple table, just copy that table over, versus incremental refreshes, that Google Analytics is generating millions and millions of data points a day. We don't need to refresh the entire history every time, just get the most recent stuff in. We need to deal with all the data sources that we have in play. We need flexibility in terms of rate limiting queries against source. I love getting calls from our DevOps folks telling me that we're using too many resources on the transactional systems. We have to have the flexibility to scale up and scale down to make sure that we're good to go. We need flexibility in scheduling, control over that replication process, on-prem control of the software for security reasons. So we needed a local install. Bonus, hey, what else can you offer us beyond replication? Now, and well, that existing provider is going away, do it all in 6 months. So one of the core values for our company is move fast and wear a helmet. We know we needed to move quick, but we needed to make sure that what we were endeavoring to do was actually going to be successful. So enter SnapLogic. Some of those bullets turn to stars. Tick the proverbial boxes. So we saw it could take data from our systems and get it into our data lake. One of the great things about SnapLogic as well, giving us the flexibility for what we're looking for, control over replication. Some of the prior tools that we were using was just a one-size-fits-all. You got no control over this, you get what you get. SnapLogic allowed us to be able to customize, control, and ultimately have better insight into the data flows that were happening for the automation and delivery of clean data to both internal and external stakeholders. But could it be done in 6 months? Dramatic pause. Well, spoiler, yeah, it happened. So May in 2000, we were told that we would need to get off that old provider, and we had until the end of the year to do so. So in August 2020, we set up a pilot phase, ultimately for us testing out Microsoft and PostgreSQL as the main transactional sources that we needed to bring over, particularly around change data capture was an important thing for us. September 2020 was our project kickoff, took place from September to November, and this was important. We engaged with SnapLogic's professional services group to make sure that the initial pipelines were well built, well documented, and that our team internally gained the knowledge we needed to be able to support the project and the pipelines go forward after the initial engagement. So no doubt, challenges along the way, questions that we had to ask ourselves as we were going through this. How do we need to be critically thinking about refresh schedules? Do we need full reloads? Do we need incremental reloads? Some of the providers that we had previously didn't give us the choice. And we're hammering our transactional system 60 times a day for a table that hadn't been changed in 5 years. So how do we balance the pulls in our transactional systems with the desire to have data live as close as possible and live as close as possible to how we needed to get it to business users? Now, how do we need to think about reconfiguring our downstream data pools to deal with new and updated data sources? We have a whole new provider coming in, bringing data into that data lake. How do we make sure our downstream tools continue to work appropriately? Now, what about the metadata layer? One of the frustrations we had with our old provider was that, well, they controlled everything. And if something got borked in terms of the load process, then we were hosed and we had no control over that. Thinking about that metadata layer for what makes sense to capture and track around the data ingestion process and ultimately report out alerts, report out graphs, report out insights for like, hey, how's it going in terms of the data ingestion process? We need to train our team up on a new tool, learn a new interface, all with the looming deadline of our old provider pulling the rug out from under us and saying, you know what, we're not going to support you anymore. So enough chat. Let's get to a demonstration. At this point, Win, I'm going to turn it over to you, the real brains behind our SnapLogic operation. So Win's our data engineer, most ingrained in SnapLogic, and we can switch over to the screen share now. Win's going to give us a demo of some of our pipelines. So Win, over to you.
Thanks, Corey. You're too kind. Hello, everyone. So we've chosen to showcase our SQL Server pipeline for this demonstration. Okay, a little background. We have an operational data store that we're looking to monetize by having that data melded into our data warehouse where we could have a more centralized view of things. So the objective here is to continuously move data from our source, which, as you can see here, is SQL Server, to our data warehouse, which is Snowflake. So with some elbow grease, enabling data change data capture, utilizing a configuration file, and setting up security protocols, we were able to create a fully functional and customizable pipeline to handle the task. Now, I'll briefly go over the control center and the sub process pipeline that enables us to digest incremental data through our ODS pipeline. All right, so now on your screen, you'll see our control center. This is the main process which determines the path the sub process takes. What I'll also mention is that the control center also has the ability to customize frequency from the amount of tables that passes to the amount of data. Lastly, in the control center, we have the floodgates. This gives us the ability to increase the amount of data we'd like to pass at a time, as well as the load type. More on that later. So if I switch over to our sub process, uh, the sub process controls how each individual row of data is processed depending on the load type. Now, the load type is very important here because this pipeline now has the capability of either refreshing the entire table or to incrementally populate it. Now, you may be asking how we're able to handle individual records at such a fast pace. Well, that that's where the data change capture comes in. With change data capture enabled within SQL Server, it provides the pipeline the ability to handle how each operation gets handled. So, yes, that's including the inserts, the updates, and the deletes. And finally, auditing. So, auditing the entire process from start to finish um, is tracked, so we can deep dive into possibly making modifications to our existing pipelines or find any anomalies. And with that, I'll hand it back to Corey.
All right, thanks, Wayne. Appreciate you taking the time for that demonstration.
Mhm.
So finally, I think what we wanted to do, we had some captures there. Mention the metadata layer Wayne was talking about at the end. Yeah, sure, we have some cool apps around orders, logistics, customer service, but I love that we've taken the time to set up views in Snowflake on top of the SnapLogic process to glean insights into the data ingestion layer. We have some basic tables that we're logging information into Snowflake, and ultimately we load that into a ClickSense application to give us insight on how reloads are working, or in some cases, maybe not working. What you're seeing on the screen right now is a fairly boring table, but the filter selections on the left side in ClickSense, I can quickly see the 300 plus data sources and tables that we're bringing in, filter by source, reload type, frequency, see when things were last loaded, can give me insight to action relatively quickly. For a more fun view, you can see some of the ebbs and flows of reloads from our transactional system as orders are coming in from customers. Here's orders and here's lines. Here's how they're flowing across time. And on these final two screens here, we can look at reload times to try to pick up on anomalies or delays in getting data. This in conjunction with the automated testing provided by dbt, Data Build Tool, allows the flexibility and extensibility to make sure data coming in is accurate, timely, and free of primary key violations. So we're getting to the end of our part of the presentation here. So to conclude in thinking about some of the lessons learned on our side, this was a very important platform upgrade. It really was move fast and wear a helmet. Yes, people love shiny front-end applications. They love business intelligence tools. But if you don't have the data underneath and you don't have accuracy in that data and dependability in that data, it's all for naught. So project management for us was key. Planning, foresight, working with the professional services group at SnapLogic all led to the ultimate success of this project. And we did it. We did the task. We got converted over and are now looking forward to the optimization side of things. How do we better deal and optimize change data capture? Wayne was talking a bit about that in his demonstration. Other things that we can do to improve those pipelines so that they're more performant, more efficient, and that we're getting the most out of our investment. So Don and Jay, earlier we're showing previews of the data loader tool. I think we're excited for that, where we want to know how this tool can be useful for what we need to do on the data ingestion side, especially as SnapLogic is able to bring more individual sources online. And there's the future steps to get data into Snowflake, process it from a data warehouse point of view, but then how do we take advantage more of SnapLogic's ability to get data out of Snowflake and onto the hands of our stakeholders, getting more of our fringe sources into Snowflake and ultimately out of Snowflake to our business users. So what's next for us at Comodo? After that initial SnapLogic project, we've moved on to a focused, renewed unified data warehouse. We've got many brands that are coming together. We have spent and invested the time in SnapLogic to make sure we have dependency of the data flows into our data warehouse. How do we make sure that things get to our customers in a unified way? So we're very happy with the base platform in SnapLogic. Now we're able to turn our focus onto delivery to our business community. Run as one. We're a family of brands, and that party's just getting started to continue to integrate all of our retail brands across all things, not just the data platforms. And key business focus for us, as I'm sure it is for many during the time of COVID, is inventory. COVID's hit many industries hard, us notwithstanding. Logistics. How are we optimizing that as a company and an organization? And finally, it really is about serving the rider, fueling the industry for us. And for us, SnapLogic is able to fuel our stakeholders and partners with data and analytics. Little pun there to end the thing. So just a quick pitch for anyone maybe looking for new opportunities. Feel free to come join the ride and have a look at some of our retail sites on the careers pages to see what opportunities may be out there for people who are here in this audience. So with that, I do want to thank everyone for attending today. And thank you, Win, for your demonstrations. And David, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Great story. The power of data and analytics for Comodo. And we at SnapLogic are super proud to be part of that success. So again, thank you, Corey and Win, for your great story. Now, before we get to some questions, I just want to wrap up with a few of the ways that our participants can learn more about SnapLogic. And how we can help your business achieve clarity and data insights, just like we help Comodo here. So as always, you can sign up for our 30-day free trial, the SnapLogic Intelligent Integration Platform. If you want to advance the next slide, please. We also have a special limited time offer for complimentary training from the SnapLogic Academy. Karen mentioned this as well at the end of Dhananjay's session. You can become a SnapLogic certified enterprise automation professional. So it's a great value there. And then finally, you can find a lot of great help and information on our community site or download white papers on how to deploy SnapLogic in your own environment. So with all that out of the way, we'll bring Corey and Win back in and we'll get some questions answered. So I was perusing the chat session. Christopher in the chat session seems to be a really big RevZilla fan. He loves the Moto gear and the reviews are very valuable. And he really loved your story about the scooter across the plains of America. So thumbs up to Christopher on that one. We got another great question from Neil. What does DBT give you, which SnapLogic does not or should?
Yeah, so I look at the DBT tool specifically, and DBT assumes that you have data in a centralized place already, and it allows you to build a load process and a transformation process to have things sit within a single environment. So for us, we had made the choice to invest in DBT a number of years ago before we switched providers for SnapLogic. For us specifically, it was the need to be able to get data from point A to point B without any need for transformation. Just get a clone of the data, but deal with some of the weird nuances we were dealing with in terms of an older version of Postgres, Microsoft Change Data Capture. I certainly have no doubts around the SnapLogic tool's ability to do transformations, but for our company specifically, because there was another product set we had invested in already for our transformation platform, there was no need to use that from a SnapLogic perspective.
Gotcha. Good answer. Okay, so I'm going to murder this name here, Vladislav. How do you organize teamwork with SnapLogic and version control of the pipelines?
Win is in charge. Is the short answer for that. And then for that, I do love the versioning capabilities, because what that allows us to do is, Dhananjay was mentioning like Jira as a potential source for things as it related to flows. For us, it's appropriate project management organization to know what needs to be done, to have that documented outside of SnapLogic, but then to know our environments are set up from a dev, staging, and production perspective. So Win has the ability to take the development pipeline, be able to do the things that need to be done, version it, of course, and then we're pushing it up the track like any sort of proper enterprise company should be doing in terms of deployments. If there are problems or issues, when we can take advantage of versioning from multiple people working on things at once, it has to be a collaborative atmosphere in terms of somebody in the driver's seat being able to do the things that need to be done, but then that appropriate layer of project management on top of it for not only version control but deployment through the various different the various different environments. One thing I will call out, when you've showed me this, many times, that like, oh, okay, cool, we need to redevelop something. You can easily, in a click of a couple of buttons, take something from a production environment, clone the latest, push it back down to a dev environment, and then you've got a fresh copy that you can version up, and then you're off to the races for the next set of changes that need to be made.
Great. A new question just came in from Bernardo. How long did it take to implement the whole solution? This kind of goes along with one of my questions. What's the learning curve for new users of SnapLogic?
For us, that we had our pilot phase back in August, and there was a lot of time crunch and time pressure because we had to be off at the end of the calendar year. So for us, it was really about 4 months of fairly intensive work. I would say, we engage with professional services, when primarily working on it full time, and other members of our team working on it part time while balancing the rest of the needs of the business, because we're taking 4 months. We can't just turn off the pipeline of things that the rest of the organization needs in terms of data delivery. So for us, 4 months end to end, and ultimately, what do we have initially? About like 8 primary pipelines for that data transfer, would you say?
Yeah, at least.
And then what are some of the data sources that we had initially that we brought in?
Google, pretty much everything Google, Postgres, SQL Server, what else? FTPs. There's a slew of them.
Yeah, and we knew that we had about 8 or so primary sources that we had to design around, and really that initial professional services engagement was getting the basic template right. How do we get our logging right? How do we get the basic template right? And then from there, it was, okay, how are we branching off with clones of a pipeline to then go off, or what are the nuances in Microsoft? What are the nuances in Postgres? How do we need to treat something like Google Sheets in terms of bringing that in? I think, David, you're talking about new users and new user uptake for Win. Win is a ETL expert, dare I say, and so had a lot of prior experience working in a tool like Microsoft SSIS. So seeing a more modern tool like SnapLogic that is cloud-based, that allows you to connect to a whole bunch of sources, that isn't tied to just one particular technology. One of the things that I particularly found nice, you've got these Snapplexes and you've got the boxes that literally you drag and drop on screen. And I think that, when I were talking about the Confluence side of things in terms of how documentation's done, that like, well, how does this Snap actually work? Oh, well, there's a Confluence page that lists out this is exactly how the Snap works. And oh, we've got the new product update that's happened, and they've already updated the documentation behind how that works. So SnapLogic, with new iterations that are coming out every quarter or so, it makes it easy to say, well, here's that new one. And I think when you were telling me about kind of a new truncate Snap that I believe is coming out as part of the new service pack, great, cool, something that we could take advantage of and perhaps simplify one of the pipelines where we're doing some workarounds in order to do appropriate truncation.
Okay. Another new question come in. This one from Neil again. Are you looking to move data, test, or use SnapLogic data loader functionality, which supports CDC in Snowflake?
So I'm very interested in that and looking forward to seeing what SnapLogic can bring in terms of initial sources. We love Snowflake as a destination, and it's a matter of, are those sources going to be available in Data Loader? And so I'm looking forward to hearing from Dhananjay when he tells us that, yay, good, we're ready with some of these on-prem sources. For us, because we do have various on-prem things, Data Loader isn't right for us yet, but looking forward to continued conversations as the Data Loader tool itself continues to evolve and there are more sources available for us to do something with.
Yeah, and I definitely have a personal experience and involvement in the data loader, and I can assure you that we are making strides in improving the product and adding more sources every day. So, okay. Kind of going back to that analytics aspect, and you talked a lot about analytics. Just from your perspective, your experience in the industry, how has the use of analytics changed over the years, and are you seeing different trends in analytics?
Yes, is the short answer. I think when I got started 15 years ago or so, it was, how do we get the data in a spot so that I can run a simple SSRS structured report against it and have an output. One of the first customers I worked with was with Chanel, and it was looking at regional reporting and product reporting, and oh my gosh, I've got a PDF that can be delivered to me, like in my inbox, to just tell me how daily sales were. Where things have gotten to, individuals are just so much smarter with data. Data is a lot more prevalent everywhere and helps so much more in decision making. And so for us, the shift of IT or the BI team controlling everything, and Dhananjay was talking about that in terms of like, the democratization bit, that like, we need to be able to get out of the way. We need to be able to put bumpers up. We need to be able to bring things to bear in a way that then we can let the users loose on the data. And I think one, reflecting on something I've been surprised by more recently is that we're using SnapLogic to get essentially clones of transactional data into a single system. It's in various different databases in our Snowflake instance. And for my team, it's about packaging it up to have appropriate analytics tables and beautiful, wonderful tables like on the outbound so that people can get insights out of it. What I found very recently is that the business is discovering that, oh, wait a second, I can take something from one brand's transactional system, which is in Microsoft, and then another brand's transactional system in Postgres, because we've used SnapLogic to clone that data into a central location. Suddenly they can do joins across databases within Snowflake that would have been impossible to do were they on independent systems. Yep. And we've had a recent uptick in users on the tech side of our business, and the more and people who are more interested in the transactional side, joining up things that we don't have in our beautiful analytics tables, but they're good enough, and it's in a location that suddenly they're able to get insights around as the brands continue to integrate. Hey, we're fulfilling it out of this one warehouse, but the information is in this one, crossing information that before a few months ago would not have been able to have been checked against.
Perfect. So yeah, we're a little over time, but again, thank you guys for your time today. For taking the questions. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We hope you all enjoy the rest of the conference. And now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Diane Miller. She's going to bring in Sony and talk about their improved employee experience. So Diane.